So the Emancipation Proclamation was in part a military strategy.
Abraham Lincoln based it entirely on his war-making power as commander-in-chief in a time of open rebellion. His inclination, he's often been criticized for not including the soaring language he was capable of in the Emancipation Proclamation. One historian likened it to a bill of lading. It had all the soaring language of a bill of lading. He did that on purpose. He did it because he doesn't have the power to strike at slavery in the absence of a war. The president doesn't. And he did it because he knows that he can't win the war with only Republicans in the army. He needs to keep Democrats on board with the war as well. They're not in favor of emancipation. The one way that they might accept it is as a tool to help achieve union. And to do that, we've got to strike at the rebels this way, strike at slavery. That will hurt their war effort, and it will also punish the people who brought on the war. And that would so Lincoln hoped that by basing it strictly on his war power, it might be more widely accepted across all parts of the loyal states and not as controversial as it was. It was still intensely controversial. It alienated many Democrats when he issued it, who said, "You're changing what this war is about. We're willing to shed our blood and maybe risk our lives to restore the Union of the founders. I'm not going to risk my life to free a black person." That's a very, very common attitude among Democrats.
So what did the Emancipation Proclamation actually do? It emphasized the freeing of slaves in the South.
It's even more complicated than that. The only place that Lincoln said he had the power as the war leader to strike at slavery is where the rebels were actually still in rebellion and in control. So any place where the U.S. Army was in control, any place, he said that is in essence United States territory now. I can't free them there because I don't have the power. I can only free them where we don't have the power. So he exempted parts of states and areas in the South that it didn't apply to as of the moment he signed it. Going forward, any place that the United States Army went where it hadn't been on January 1st, 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation applied, and enslaved people would be freed by it. Literally at the time he signed it, he didn't free anybody because he's only saying I can free them where we're not in control. We have to be in control for this to have effect, for this to have power.
So in part, this is why the Army was the boundary which the freeing was happening.
It's absolutely the boundary. And Congress had already passed what was called the Second Confiscation Act. It passed this in July of 1862 that announced that all enslaved people belonging to rebels were free. It didn't apply to people who could prove they were Unionists living in the South and owned slaves. Lincoln didn't make that distinction in the Emancipation Proclamation. His proclamation is broader than the Second Confiscation Act was.